What if the people least suited to lead are precisely the ones most likely to attain leadership? Imagine walking into a boardroom or a government chamber and realizing the person with the most power might be the one who deserves it the least. Could our social systems be fundamentally flawed in how they select leaders? Look around in politics, business, and institutions worldwide, and you see this pattern repeating again and again. Take Richard Nixon, who climbed to the pinnacle of American power only to abuse it during Watergate. Despite his intelligence and experience, Nixon's paranoia, deception, and moral compromises led to his downfall. Yet those very traits, ruthless pragmatism and willingness to bend rules, helped him climb the political ladder in the first place. Nearly 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli observed the same in Renaissance Italy. In The Prince, he wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, because it belongs to everybody to see you, to few to come in touch with you. Everyone sees what you appear to be, few really know what you are." In other words, appearance often trumps reality when it comes to leadership. Machiavelli wasn't advocating deception as a virtue. He was exposing an uncomfortable truth about human psychology and power dynamics. Modern research confirms this. A study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that overconfident individuals are often perceived as more competent, even when their actual abilities don't justify this perception. Today, we'll explore why leadership systems consistently reward traits that should disqualify candidates: narcissism, dishonesty, and even foolishness. We'll see how Machiavelli's insights from the 16th century align with modern psychology and examine exceptions that break the pattern, offering lessons for the future. The prince must consider how to avoid those things which make him hated or contemptible. Machiavelli cautioned against being fickle, frivolous, mean-spirited, or irresolute. Leadership demands projecting unwavering confidence and decisiveness. In today's terms, this often means narcissistic individuals have a significant advantage in leadership contests. Imagine you're lost in a forest with strangers. Two people volunteer to lead. One says, "I think I know the way, but I'm not sure. Several paths could work." The other declares, "Follow me, I know exactly where to go." Even if the first is honest about uncertainty, most will follow the second. This instantaneous gravitation toward certainty, even if false, plays out in workplaces and communities daily. It's no surprise that a meta-analysis of 54 studies showed narcissists often win leadership roles, thanks to supreme confidence, charisma, and bold visions. Yet these traits don't guarantee good leadership. CEOs with narcissistic tendencies lead companies with 27% more performance volatility and are 33% likelier to face negative market reactions. Consider Adam Neumann, former WeWork CEO. His grandiose vision and unshakable confidence convinced investors to value his startup at $47 billion, despite massive losses. Yet when reality failed to meet promises, WeWork's valuation plummeted by over 80%. Neumann's story exemplifies how traits aiding ascent can sow downfall. Why do we prefer confidence over accuracy? Humans are wired to be drawn to confidence, especially amid uncertainty. As one psychologist put it, we prefer confidence to accuracy. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Nothing makes a prince so much esteemed as great enterprises and setting a fine example. The appearance of greatness often matters more than actual competence. Yet some leaders break this mold. Consider Seretse Khama, Botswana's first president. From one of Africa's poorest nations, he led Botswana to stability and prosperity through humility and pragmatism, building strong institutions rather than personality cults. Under his leadership, Botswana's GDP grew from $69 million in 1966 to over $8.4 billion by 2000, and life expectancy rose from 52 to 65 years. Khama's legacy shows that while narcissism may help attain power, steadiness, integrity, and genuine care create lasting leadership. Have you noticed the difference between traits that help gain power and those that make leaders effective? Machiavelli noted, "Everyone admits how praiseworthy, It is in a prince to keep his word and behave with integrity, rather than cunning. Nevertheless, those princes who have done great things have considered keeping their word of little account, and have known how to beguile men's minds by shrewdness and cunning. This is perhaps Machiavelli's most infamous observation, that successful leaders often employ deception. But it's not about blatant lying, it's more like a magician's misdirection. While your attention is fixed on the magician's right hand, the left quietly performs the trick. Leaders highlight favorable metrics, hide failures, and frame challenges positively to maintain morale. We humans suffer from optimism bias, interpreting ambiguous information to fit what we want to believe. Leaders exploit this, crafting messages that different groups interpret to their liking. Research from the University of Michigan shows that positively framing challenges can boost employee morale and productivity by 31%, even in tough times. But not all leaders play this game. Patagonia, under founder Yvon Chouinard, built its brand on radical transparency, openly acknowledging environmental impact and discouraging overconsumption with campaigns like "Don't buy this jacket." This honesty didn't hurt the business, it strengthened customer loyalty. Revenue grew from $295 million to $1.5 billion. The most dangerous deception isn't what leaders tell followers, but what they tell themselves. A 2023 study found power increases self-deception by 42%. Leaders believe their own narratives despite contradictory evidence, creating feedback loops where self-delusion reinforces power. Machiavelli also taught us to judge leaders by the company they keep. The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Intelligent leaders surround themselves with other intelligent people, insecure ones with fools. Yet here lies a paradox. The beer test in politics shows voters prefer candidates they'd enjoy having a beer with over intellectuals who seem complex or aloof. This reflects the pratfall effect. Competent people who show minor weaknesses are often more likable than flawless ones. Think about leaders in your life. Are the most thoughtful or the simplest and most confident? The ones who rise fastest. George W. Bush's folksy style connected with voters who might have rejected more intellectual presentations. Humans crave certainty and simple narratives, even when problems demand nuance. A Stanford study of 900 Hiscoff CEOs found that leaders who use simpler language are 23% more likely to be hired and receive 16% higher initial compensation, yet 31% more likely to underperform in complex settings. Machiavelli advised a prince ought to have no other aim than war and its discipline, meaning focus on practical, straightforward skills over theoretical knowledge. This creates the complexity trap. Those best equipped to handle complexity appear indecisive and lose to simpler competitors. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. This famous Machiavellian paradox reflects leadership psychology. Empathy and kindness, while morally good, can be liabilities. Leaders must make tough decisions that cause short-term pain for long-term gain. Too much empathy may cause hesitation. Research shows power reduces empathy like a surgeon needing emotional detachment to operate. People with naturally lower empathy or narcissistic traits may appear more decisive and stable. The University of California found narcissistic individuals are 35% more likely to be chosen as group leaders experimentally. Machiavelli wrote, "Thus it is well to seem merciful, faithful, humane, but to be able to change to the opposite when needed." This highlights a strange paradox. Virtues like honesty and kindness can sometimes worsen outcomes depending on context. Angela Merkel's leadership during Europe's refugee crisis balanced humanitarian empathy with pragmatic limits. Pure empathy or pure pragmatism would have failed. The wisdom was knowing when to lead with heart. Machiavelli famously said, "It is unnecessary for a prince to have all good qualities, but very necessary to appear to have them." This cynical insight isn't just about deception, but understanding that perception often outweighs reality in leadership. How can we ensure leaders truly possess the qualities for effective leadership? We need to redesign selection systems to overcome biases. Ancient Venice mixed elections and random selection to prevent power capture. Some societies forced leaders to relinquish power regularly. Modern organizations like Bridgewater Associates use radical transparency. Employees critique leadership openly, and CEOs undergo anonymous reviews, preventing narcissistic echo chambers. Drawing from Machiavelli and modern research, reforms include prioritizing past behavior over interview performance, using trial leadership periods with 360-degree feedback before permanent appointment, separating proposal and approval powers to avoid concentration, assigning devil's advocates to challenge assumptions, enforcing term limits and leadership rotation to prevent corruption. Ultimately, power corrupts, and unchecked power corrupts absolutely. Machiavelli knew this better than most. A prince must be a fox to recognize snares and a lion to frighten wolves. The fox represents strategic wisdom to detect deception, the lion moral courage to stand firm on principles. The best systems balance these forces, ensuring even flawed leaders produce good outcomes. What systems have you seen that prevent leadership abuse? James Madison, a founding father, wrote, "If men were angels, no government would be necessary." He designed the U.S. Constitution's checks and balances to function despite imperfect leaders. Leadership effectiveness depends more on context than individual traits. Different roles reward different qualities. The same person may succeed in one role and fail in another, not because of character changes, but because of context,